some suggestions for improving it. I was very pleased with it when I finished, and I learned lots about the country. The next placement was on the other side of the world, in Australia. I was on a farm in the middle of nowhere, and since I'm pretty good in the kitchen, they had me fixing meals for 30 sheep shearers. I stayed 2 months, and it was a lot of fun, but I can tell you I was glad to get back home to California and just lie on a beach and relax. Okay, then, after a well-deserved rest, I did a job in South Korea for a small company that wanted an English speaker to show visiting Americans around. They gave me some books to read, and I learned as I worked. I loved it, and I developed a real taste for Korean food. My most difficult job was for an older lady in the USA. She had a gigantic house and grounds, but she couldn't maintain them all herself. So I worked for her, digging and planting flowers and stuff around her swimming pool. And she grew tons of vegetables, too. She was nice, but she fed me hot dogs morning, noon, and night. Now, my most recent placement was last summer in Italy. I helped a family add a room onto their house. I didn't speak Italian or know the first thing about building, but the husband had an English-Italian phrase book, and together with sign language showed me exactly what to do. And the wife's cooking was out of this world.
Thanks, Stephen. And if you want more information about...
Section 3. You will hear a discussion between a student called Helen and her tutor about an assignment that Helen is working on.
Come in, Helen. How can I help you?
Well, I'm doing research for the anthropology assignment, and I was hoping to check a few details.
Sure. You chose the topic of Pacific Island tupper cloth, didn't you? What have you found out so far?
Well, I was going to introduce my assignment by saying that the tupper cloth is a fabric made from bark, just the outer layer of the trees. It's particularly common in the Pacific Islands, but not exclusive to them. In fact, many other peoples around the world have made high-quality cloth from bark. But what sets Pacific tupper apart is the incredible variety of roles it's played in this region.
Yes, nice introduction, though I think you could be more specific regarding dates. Okay, so what about the raw materials used?
Well, tupper cloth is made from several species of tree. In the Pacific, the paper mulberry tree is most common, but it doesn't thrive in all conditions. In fact, it wasn't originally found in the islands, but was carried in their canoes by the first migrants. Tupper is also made from the breadfruit tree, which is convenient because its fruit is a staple food. The paper mulberry tree is only grown for tupper making, though.
Yes, that's good. Now, what about the Maori people here in New Zealand?
But the Māori don't make tupper now.
That's right, and you need to account for it. We know that when Maori migrated here from the other Pacific Islands, they were prepared to make tupper because they brought the paper mulberry tree with them. The thing was, after they'd been in New Zealand a bit, they found the flax plant, which is superior to tupper because it makes a stronger fabric. By the time Europeans arrived in the 18th century, Maori were making all their fabric from flax and had been for some time.
Okay, so with the production process itself, first the inner bark is beaten with wooden hammers to soften the fibres. Then the different pieces are glued together using an adhesive paste made from the arrowroot tuber. This is the only way to fabricate large pieces of cloth because bark strands are too fine to be woven together and stitching isn't strong enough.
So now you need details about different countries.
Where would you start?
I think Samoa is the obvious place. It's famous for its very fine cloth called siapo, which is hand-painted with representations of the ancestors. Still today, at the most profound events in life, such as births, funerals, weddings, and the investiture of chiefs, Samoans wear siapo robes to add significance and meaning to the ceremony.
Okay, then I could talk about Tonga. It seems to me that the great innovation in Tonga has been developing a simple, coarse cloth which is quick and easy to make. This is suitable for all sorts of everyday functions around the house like bed covers, mosquito nets and curtains.
Good point. Now, what about Cook Islands tupper?
Well, the soil there is poor quality, so the breadfruit tree is often used. One type of thick cloth called tikoru was wrapped around the poles and used to mark the entrances to places of worship, so it was highly regarded in local culture.
You might mention Fiji as well, which is interesting because tapa was actually used as a currency there. Fijians used to sail between the islands and exchange tapa for other commodities like canoes or pigs.
I know that in Tahiti the tapa cloth is different because the patterns are in colour, which is considered more valuable than the usual brown patterns.
You're right about the Tahitians using coloured pigments, but they aren't more valuable. The colours are only a decoration. People enjoy wearing bright robes, especially for dancing and competitive games, and do it just for fun.
Oh, I'll make a note of that. Well, the last place I was going to mention was Tikopia. Even today it's commonplace to see people wearing clothes made of tapa cloth. In many of the other islands, the tapa only comes out on special occasions, but here you see people working in the gardens wearing tapa.
Sounds promising, Helen. I'll look forward to reading your assignment.
Part 4. You will hear part of a lecture on bird research in Australia.
Good afternoon. This is the third session of the series of lectures on wildlife. For this lecture, we're going to look at two studies on the habitats of birds and protection measures taken in Australia, including the basic methodology and related areas of research. Now, let me give you some background information about the first research project on birds. The study was carried out by R.B. Cunningham and his team from the Australian National University in 1995. The primary goal was to detect the breeding habits and resting sites of some birds, especially those protected species in urban regions. These species included birds like peregrine falcons and kestrels in Australia. The bird data set consisted of a total of 153 species recorded from 946 sites. One might expect that in order to obtain valid data on their distribution patterns and population densities, researchers had to count through binoculars. Instead, they managed to estimate with various standard distance sampling methods like random sampling. In addition, a mapping system was used to study their companionship behaviour. It recorded proposed birds' nesting sites to monitor the mating behaviour of targeted species. To obtain valid data of birds' whereabouts, researchers attached identity tags to birds' legs, transmitting radio signals. The tagging process was done when the birds were between 5 and 7 days of age. After the initial tagging, data was collected from subsets of radio-tagged birds, making it possible to assess the trends of birds over 15 months. So, what did they find? Well, as it turned out, many of the birds tagged had the tendency to nest in the same habitat where they grew up. Their nesting sites were quite varied and included freshwater reed beds, tidal reed beds, agricultural crops, and man-made sites. Even though naturally occurring nests were common, birds sometimes accidentally nested in man-made devices like power towers, chimneys, and tunnels. This research also studied the impact of humans on bird communities and found out that pollution had contributed greatly to the declining birth rates of some species, which were considered to be extinct or threatened to vanish from the study area. These species are dependent on natural forests because of their breeding holes. They will become extinct when local natural forests continue to be polluted heavily. A number of measures were thus taken by members from local animal conservation organisations to boost their alarming survival rates. Firstly, breeding boxes were placed in trees, taking on the role of breeding holes that were contaminated. Protection guidelines were also introduced strictly prohibiting killing, disturbance and habitat destruction. A further measure was taken to ensure the safety of birds from wind farms. In fact, birds are sometimes shedded by wind turbine blades. A great deal of work was done on how to prevent them from colliding with turbines. A case in point was protecting space for bird migration by ensuring that migratory routes were kept free. Falcons generally cope well with wind turbines, but not in weather conditions where visibility is bad. So, with knowledge of how fast falcons fly, bird stations in northern Australia can notify wind farms further south of the falcon's approach so that turbines can be shut down as they pass by. Then, another piece of research was done a couple of years later by Conway in 2006. His team detected the calling frequency of seabirds flying at night. Acoustic signals are important communication tools for birds. These signals can indicate social cohesion, prey location, and breeding behaviour. Courtship songs are common among various species during mating seasons. Males produce calling songs that attract distant females, and then courtship songs will induce nearby females to respond. Surveyors also took recordings of the sounds of all the individual birds detected. A tablet PC was used to process detailed information like sound pitch, spectrum, length, and timing of surveys. To minimise the disturbance on the bird community, all the sounds were recorded from a distance, using microphones to detect noise. They found that the probability of call events was much higher for solitary birds communicating early and late in the day. Further analyses indicated that during foraging, the frequency of calls was significantly greater for birds encountering schooling fish, and birds called sooner after a catch in these foraging scenarios, compared with when only single fish were encountered. The results of this study showed that increased calling activity in the presence of more profitable prey could be of crucial importance to seabirds that benefit from group foraging. So, does anyone have more questions on...
Section 1. You will hear a woman phoning a restaurant to book a room for a party.
Good morning, Shaw's Restaurant.
Hi, I'd like to book one of your function rooms for a party, please.
Okay, fine. How many people are you expecting for the party?
Well, I'm not quite sure yet, but about 60.
Fine. So you will need a big room. And what day were you thinking of?
The party's for my daughter's birthday. It's her 21st. Her birthday's actually on the 17th of November, but that's a Friday, so we thought we'd have her party on the 18th as that's a Saturday. There'll be lots of her friends there as well as all the family.
And what time would you like the room for?
Oh, I'm not sure. 7:45? Not too late.
Okay.
And people will probably be leaving about 11.
Fine. We're open until 11:30.
Excellent. And what about the menu?
So, do you want a sit-down meal with waiter service?
Yes, not a buffet.
Right. Well, there are several options including different menus at various prices. So there's the standard menu. That's £25 per person.
Okay.
Or the celebration menu, which is 3 courses. It's very popular. That's £35.
Okay, I think I'd rather go with that.
And there's also our gold menu. That's a 5-course menu at £50.
No, that's definitely too expensive.
Okay.
Now, not all the guests eat meat. Will there be something for them?
Of course. We'll make sure there's a vegetarian option for each course.
Great.
And do you know if any of the guests have food allergies? Anything like shellfish, for example?
I'll need to check, but I do know that one of my daughter's friends is very allergic to strawberries. Even just being near them can be a problem.
Okay. I'll make a note to our chef to avoid those completely. Do you have any other requests for desserts?
Well, I'd like a choice if possible. And could we have cheese as well?
Of course, no problem. We can provide that. Now, do you have any other requests I could help with? What about after-dinner entertainment? You can book a band if you'd like live music.
Actually, I think a disco would be best if you can arrange that.
No problem.
And I heard you might be able to put on a fireworks display. Is that possible?
We aren't offering that service anymore, I'm afraid. It was just too expensive.
Oh, I see.
Now, the menu package you've chosen includes a few other nice things.
Oh, like what?
We'll decorate the room for you, which creates a nice party atmosphere. We can use different colors for the balloons. Silver, gold.
She loves pink, but actually, I think she'd prefer flowers to balloons. So let's go for them instead, in the same color.
No problem. Now, you mentioned that the party's for your daughter. We make birthday cakes if you'd like one.
Okay, yes. We'll definitely want a cake.
And we can put a special message on top. What would you like?
Congratulations, and then her name. That's Susie.
Fine.
Now, 1 or 2 of the guests are coming by train, but they stop running quite early, so they'll need a taxi to take them to the Forest Hotel after the party. Is that something you can sort out?
Absolutely. Anything else?
I think that's all for now.
Okay. Well, just get in touch if you think of anything else. Now, if I can just take some contact details, I just need your name and phone number.
I'm Maria Nelson, and my number's 07749 132 760.
Excellent. We look forward to seeing you soon.
Section 2. You will hear a company manager talking to staff about procedures to follow if a fire breaks out at work.
Hello, and thanks to everyone for being on time. The meeting will be fairly short and will only be looking at fire procedures. I had a similar meeting with the senior fire officers earlier today, but you're all here because you've volunteered to act as fire wardens for your own particular department. And for some of you, this will be your first time in the role. although you'll probably have taken part in several fire drills since you've been here. But now the construction work is finished and we have a couple of new corridors and stairways, we need the meeting to update everyone. And before I forget, you might have noticed a bit of upgrading last week. The handheld fire extinguishers, the standard ones on the wall, the report says they're all working well, as is the overhead sprinkler system. But the old alarm system has been replaced and should be a lot more